It is no secret the Bulls and Jimmy Butler were at odds last season, but Jimmy made it pretty clear that it was specifically Coach Fred Hoiberg.
Jimmy started talking to the GM, everybody in the gym. Yeah. Y'all better mother effing pay me. I'm like that. I'm like, he is nuts.
Jimmy Butler's reputation at the moment is as clubhouse cancer, basically, as locker room cancer. There's no other way to say it.
Story we've been following. Jimmy Butler will return and start for the Miami Heat after serving a 7-game suspension. Now,
Jimmy Butler's journey through the NBA has been one of unrelenting determination and unapologetic self-worth. From his early days with the Chicago Bulls to his current stint with the Miami Heat, Butler has faced countless challenges and controversies, labeled as difficult and narcissistic by some, and a hero by others. His story is a testament to his relentless pursuit of respect and excellence. In Chicago, Butler quickly became a star, but his relationship with the team was far from smooth. Despite his stellar performances, tensions with management and teammates grew. Butler's outspoken nature and demand for a larger role led to his departure from the Bulls. His move to the Minnesota Timberwolves was marked by an infamous practice session with Butler, a bold display of his value and competitive spirit, further straining his relationships. With the 76ers, the trend continued, playing a crucial role for the playoff team. However, the pursuit of a max contract led to conflicts with teammates as well. Now, in Miami, Butler has found both success and turmoil. He has led the Heat to multiple NBA Finals appearances, proving his doubters wrong yet again. However, recent tensions with management, particularly with Pat Riley, have surfaced. Butler's trade request and suspension have once more placed him in the spotlight, challenging perceptions of whether he is the problem or simply a player who refuses to settle for less than what he is worth. Join us as we explore Jimmy Butler's tumultuous journey through the NBA, from Chicago to Minnesota, Philadelphia to Miami. We'll dive into the drama, disputes, and determination that define Jimmy Butler. Is he a misunderstood star, or a relentless competitor demanding the acknowledgement he deserves?
And the Hawks.
Jimmy Butler's path to the NBA was anything but typical. Overlooked by major colleges, he first had to prove himself at Tyler Junior College before transferring to Marquette University. His impressive performances there caught the eyes of NBA scouts, leading to his selection as the 30th overall pick by the Chicago Bulls in the 2011 NBA Draft. Joining a roster that included prime Derrick Rose and Kyle Korver, Butler initially struggled to find playing time, averaging only 8 minutes and 3 points per game in his rookie season. However, his second year saw a significant increase in playing time, with Butler averaging 26 minutes per game. Known primarily for his defensive prowess, he ranked 17th for Defensive Player of the Year in just his sophomore season. As his career progressed, Butler's role on the team expanded. By the 2014-2015 season, he was averaging 38.7 minutes per game, earning his first All-Star appearance and winning the NBA's Most Improved Player award. Despite these achievements, his time with the Bulls was not without conflict. In 2015, the Bulls replaced head coach Tom Thibodeau with Fred Hoiberg, a change that did not sit well with Butler. Thibodeau was known for his demanding coaching style, pushing his players to reach their full potential. In contrast, Hoiberg's laid-back approach was seen by Butler as insufficient for a team aiming to win championships. Butler's public criticism of Hoiberg's coaching style highlighted his frustrations. He stated, "I believe in the guys in this locker room, but I also believe that we probably have to be coached a lot harder at times. I know Fred is a laid-back guy, and I respect him for that. But when guys aren't doing what they're supposed to do, you gotta get on guys, myself included." Butler's critique extended beyond coaching to the Bulls' front office, calling for more talent to support the team's championship aspirations. Despite his efforts to push his teammates and demand excellence, his actions were often misinterpreted by the media and fans. The narrative shifted, painting Butler as a disruptive force rather than a driven leader. The decline of the Bulls further fueled Butler's frustrations. Derrick Rose's injuries had diminished his effectiveness, and Joakim Noah's decline left the team without the necessary supporting talent to compete in the Eastern Conference. Rumors of tension between Butler and Rose, with Butler reportedly questioning Rose's work ethic, added to the turmoil. By the end of Thibodeau's tenure, Butler's relationship with the team had deteriorated. His clash with Hoiberg's coaching style and the team's lack of progress led the Bulls to a critical decision. Rather than building around Butler, they chose to start a rebuild, trading him to the Minnesota Timberwolves. This decision marked the beginning of a recursive pattern in Butler's career. His intense drive to win and his willingness to hold others accountable often led to conflicts and misunderstandings. Yet, despite the negative press and scrutiny, Butler's talent and determination remained undeniable. The narrative started to shift, painting Butler as a disruptive force rather than a driven leader. The media's portrayal of Butler as a problem rather than an asset was highly ironic, considering that just a few years ago, his work ethic was highly praised. Now, the very same dedication and drive were being used against him. This shift in narrative can be attributed to the media's tendency to sensationalize stories and create compelling headlines, as well as the team's incentive to justify their decision to trade Butler. Unfortunately, after Jimmy said that the team has to go one of two ways, his way or Hoiberg's way, the Bulls stuck behind Hoiberg. Jimmy Butler was their franchise player and the face of the team. But Jimmy Butler stated after the trade that ultimately that means nothing, it seems. According to reports, Butler told Hoiberg, "I think you're soft, and I don't like you," to which Hoiberg flat out responded, "Well, fuck you, Jimmy." This confrontation underscored the deep-seated issues between the two and their differing approaches to coaching and team leadership. Jimmy Butler was thrusted to leave the team he originally thought that he would spend his career with. As you might expect, this left an awful taste of betrayal in Jimmy Butler's mouth, which it seems he continued to carry for nearly a decade now. In Minnesota, Philadelphia, and Miami, Butler continued to face challenges and controversies, but his commitment to winning never wavered. He demanded the best from himself and the teammates, even if it meant him being labeled as an instigator. Throughout his career, Butler has shown that his thirst for victory is not just about personal accolades, but about pushing his team to reach their full potential.
It limits the options. Now, he doesn't care because he wants his options limited.
Even while short-lived, Butler's time with the Timberwolves is likely his most memorable behind the current Heat era, as the way he left was theatrical. There was a lot of hope for him on the Timberwolves, considering the fact that he was reuniting with Tom Thibodeau, the coach that he yearned for when Fred Hoiberg replaced him in Chicago. Except things were far from swell in Minnesota too. Between injuries and losing in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler seemed to have the same idea about this team as well. Jimmy Butler asked about how he felt about his reunion with Tibbs, and his response was nothing but respect. At least, for now that is. "Man, me and Tibbs will butt heads a million times throughout the year. That's a given. We'll probably butt heads more than anyone else on the team, because we go about things the same way. But he may see something differently than the way I see it. And he'll speak on it, and I'll speak on it, and before you know it, we're like, yo, da-da-da-da, listen to this, listen to this." But that's because we both want to win. The problem was the Timberwolves team was young and inexperienced. Jimmy Butler came in and was thought to be Tibbs' right-hand man, already having experience with him to be a teacher and auxiliary to Tibbs on the court, teaching the new players like Cat and Wiggins to play good defense and attack. After a memorable, embarrassing loss to the Wizards, Jimmy Butler outwardly stated that the current approach wasn't working and he would have to try tough love in order to be the veteran leader. While it may seem like that would set him on the right path as it did in Chicago, that actually wasn't the first stone that was cast. That would come when the then general manager Scott Layden offered to re-sign him, and Jimmy Butler considered the deal a spit in the face. Jimmy had been battling injuries, and given his attitude towards previous coaches in Chicago, it created some hesitation with his contract. Now at first glance, $100 million for 4 years seems like a really good deal. in which many people again took to make Jimmy Butler out as the enemy for being selfish. Well, that is until you zoom out and start to look at the big picture. Wiggins, for example, was offered a 5-year, $147 million contract, and Cat was offered a 5-year, $190 million Supermax contract. Jimmy Butler was brought in to make this team winnable. Without him, those players wouldn't even be worth anything. And now, they were going to be making nearly double him. And Jimmy Butler realized that. This led to several disputes. Jimmy Butler let out the same grievances he had in the past, that the team wasn't trying hard enough, and he was all but fed up with the team's nonchalant attitude. This could have been smoothed over if it had just stayed at that. Maybe the teams work out a better contract deal, team chemistry issues are worked on, and that's the end of it. But it seems both sides wanted to add fuel to the fire, as Jimmy Butler did not fly back with the team following their playoff loss. And when trade rumors started appearing, Wiggins' brother tweeted, "Hallelujah," acting grateful to have him gone. Afterwards, Jimmy Butler seemingly decided to simply ghost the team for a while through the offseason and preseason, until we get to the most well-known event in the Butler Timberwolves era, that practice. Reportedly, Jimmy Butler shocked everyone when he showed up to practice, as again, he was MIA for a long time for the team before this. But he wasn't there to work with them again. He was there to prove a point. With Wiggins and Cat being the ones who made more than him, and being the chosen children of the franchise, Jimmy Butler decided to target them even more in this point to be made, declaring a scrimmage to be played with all the starters, including Wiggins and Cat, versus him and the bench players. He made it a point that he was the driving force behind the franchise. Butler was intense throughout the scrimmages, targeting President of Basketball Operations and Coach Tom Thibodeau, General Manager Scott Layden, and teammates, including Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. As the GM watched from the sidelines during the scrimmage, sources said that Butler yelled to Layden, "You fucking need me, Scott. You can't win without me." And he was correct. Prior to Jimmy in the 2018 season, the Timberwolves hadn't been in the playoffs since Kevin Garnett in 2004. This further villainized him in the playoff world, especially to the Timberwolves fans. Except, that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted his point to be heard that he was the most valuable asset, and what better way to make you believe that than making you see it. But more so than that, Jimmy Butler was also playing chess. Even with the media making him the enemy, Jimmy vocalized his thoughts on this behavior at practice and even apologized for it, which of course the media didn't cover much of to fit the narrative. But he stated, "All my emotion came out in one time. Was it the right way? No. But I can't control it when I'm out there competing. That's raw me at my finest, me at my purest, inside the lines." He wanted someone to call him out on it. With the whole team being soft, he wanted everyone to step up and voice their concerns. "Everyone is so scared to be honest," Butler continued. "If you don't like the way I handled myself in practice, one of the players should come up to me. Somebody say something. Anything." Instead, the media continued to drag him while the actual team didn't, simply just proving his point. If the franchise was going to let him get away with that, then they truly were soft and anyone could walk all over them. Jimmy Butler made it more evident that he was targeting Cat and the chosen ones, as according to Jeff Teagues, who was on the team, Jimmy immediately guarded Cat first and stole the ball, and that same tone was kept the entire time. As a result, he of course was traded finally and went to join the 76ers.
Tobias Harris over me?
If you're aware of 76ers history, you may already know where this is going. Jimmy Butler joined the 76ers through a trade, but he was now carrying a burden that was going to be difficult to shake. He had now exited 2 teams under harsh circumstances and was burning bridges through his path in the NBA. Before he even played a single minute for the 76ers, he was already going in with the reputation of a, quote, locker room cancer from Max Kellerman. This only got worse as he was instantly getting in a few disagreements with his coach, Brett Brown. It seemed even with the 76ers that their level of commitment and leadership was questionable at best. Coming off of the process years, the team was directionless. Sure, they were winning 50 games and back in the playoffs now, but after so many years of losing, when the time came to win, the question was simply, how? Jimmy Butler said so himself. No one truly knew what was going on. There was no clear sign of what to do, a clear sign of if the process was over, or a clear sign of how the team was meant to act. Quote, Butler spoke out about the leadership issues on the team and how he didn't know who the fuck was in charge. Butler said the following when Redick asked him if the last year in Philly was difficult. Hell yeah, it was difficult. It was so different, and on any given day, me as a person, me as a player, I didn't know who was in charge. I think that was the biggest thing. I didn't know what the fuck to expect whenever I go into the gym, whenever I go onto the plane, whenever I'd go into the game. I would think, man, I think I was just as lost as the next guy. There was so much going on every given day. I was like, yep, guess I'm just here to work. I didn't know who to talk to. Jimmy Butler even stated that when they needed coaching, no one filled that void, which is why he had such a problem with Brown in the front office of the 76ers. In reference to watching film after games, Jimmy said, nothing is getting accomplished. Nobody is saying nothing to anybody, and we're just sitting here watching the film. And you can literally hear the thing just clicking, and we all just looked around. When viewing film from a game in Portland, Jimmy recounts the event with JJ Redick stating, so now we fast forward to how many weeks are over there, and we are in Portland, and then that happens during the film session, because once again, wasn't nobody saying nothing. So who was the individual who decided to finally say something? Redick backed him up saying, nothing you said about the team was wrong. I thought your interaction with Brett that day was a normal interaction. I don't know why it got reported the way it did. You were coming off whatever happened in Chicago and whatever happened in Minnesota. I get that. Nothing was weird. But basically, he was like, there are some tweaks in the offense. I think some other guys feel the same way. This added more locker room drama as Butler had to be the voice of the team again and say what everyone was thinking. He had to be the one to speak out, as he had already spoken out in Chicago and Minnesota. So now he had no problem doing it. But when pushed on it, no one on the team stood up for him, causing more backlash that Jimmy was disrupting the locker room, even though he was voicing other people's opinions. They simply let Jimmy take the fall. Jimmy Butler tells the events, I did not throw him under the bus. I did not say his name. I did not say that. This is what I did. I did not say TJ. Brett Brown said, who all feels a type of way about it. Now keep in mind, everyone comes and talks to me because they know I am not afraid to be the asshole. So obviously, I talked to TJ. Brett asked a great question. Who else feels a type of way about something? All I did. I didn't hear nothing behind me. I just knew somebody was going to speak up because I talked to about 5 people. And yet, crickets. So I turned to the first person I just happened to lock eyes with, which was TJ. So Monty Williams goes, yo, for real, now's the time. TJ was like, now you know. All of these problems started to come to a head when Butler challenged Brown's game plan. Jimmy Butler was a veteran player that had proved he can play on both ends of the floor despite his reputation. However, Ben Simmons was the first-round draft pick that had comparisons to LeBron. ESPN themselves even stated bringing together the complex trio of Butler, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons was never going to be easy for any coach, and it's already proving a substantial challenge for the Sixers. The process had went underway to get players like Ben Simmons, meaning restricting Simmons' playing time would undermine that and seem like they are wasting his potential in the years that led up to getting him. And so, the 76ers decided to play through Simmons. It was going well for a while, and they even led the Raptors to 7 games, until...
You got to be aware of the inbounder here if you're Philly. It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger? Game! Series! Toronto has won!
Kawhi sank the infamous dagger, sending the 76ers home and going on to win the championship. This aggravated Jimmy Butler, as again he had devised a different plan, which who knows, may have gotten them past the then championship Raptors. This only got worse when once again contract extension time came up. Just like with the Timberwolves, Jimmy Butler felt lowballed. As many have commented before, the 76ers were choosing Simmons over him, and it was made clear. Jimmy Butler was offered a 4-year, $142 max contract. In comparison, Simmons was offered a 5-year, $170 million contract. But even worse, one player was offered 5-year, $180 million contract. Tobias Harris. This Tobias Harris and Simmons contract caused a lot of strain on the 76ers, which caused issues that you can learn more about in my upcoming 76ers video. But as for Jimmy Butler, he gave the reaction you might expect. He stated the 76ers wanted to control him. Jimmy Butler then decided to go shopping for a team that would fit what he had been looking for so long. A competitive team that shared his mentality of hard work and desire to win. No half measures, with a competent coach and GM. And that led him to Miami, which of course he didn't make his comments on the situation subtle.
Tobias Harris over me?
I feel like I did my job, or what at least my job is now.
When you say what your job is now, we're sort of not used to see you standing in the...
Miami seemed to be the perfect place for Jimmy Butler. A culture that thrived there that was focused on fighting until the final buzzer and giving maximum effort. Exactly as Jimmy Butler was thriving for his teams all along. When Jimmy Butler arrived, it was a breath of fresh air. Not only did Jimmy love it, but the franchise was welcoming him with open arms. Reportedly, "Welcome Jimmy" was the message on the giant video screen outside of American Airlines Arena. Jimmy loved the culture, stating, "I think the culture that this organization is about, obviously the players that they have, the players they have had in the past, it fits who I am, what I'm about, how I think, and how I go about what I go about every day." But just as important, an old friend was there. Dwayne Wade, who had played with Jimmy Butler back in Chicago, caught wind that Jimmy was shopping for teams in a culture similar to that of the Heat. Dwayne Wade was one of the only people that shared in Butler's voice during the Hoiberg feud, so he knew all too well what Jimmy was after and voiced the opportunity to him. "He has always said how nice Miami is," Butler said of the recently retired Dwayne Wade's influence, with the two becoming close friends during their time as Bulls teammates in 2016 to 2017. Obviously the weather and all that great stuff, but I'm talking about the organization and the people that's in it and how they go about everything. I've been fortunate enough to be around him for a couple years now since my days in Chicago, and it always seemed to come up one way or another of how great the people were, the culture that was there, and obviously him winning championships and what that took. He would always say it would be a place for you, the type of guy you are, the mentality you have, the Heat culture, it just fits. Jimmy continued to simply just gush over the Heat and Miami culture, saying, "The work that you put in every single day, the winning habits, the winning ways. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? It was excited to have an opportunity to come here, to be here, but when I kept hearing about this culture, I was like, I need that in my life." For several years, things went well. Jimmy finally had a team that he could stay on. With 6 years in Chicago, 2 years in Minnesota, and only 1 in Philly, this could be where he spent the rest of his career. Things had been going swell, at least on the surface. Jimmy led the Heat to the finals not just once, but twice, and another conference finals appearance on top of that. He was finally on a winning team. But the team simply needed more. And once again, the problem started. Jimmy was vocal that he wants Miami to be more aggressive in getting talent to fill a championship team. What did Miami do instead? Well, Pat Riley fell asleep during the trade deadline. This started the slow burn for Jimmy that maybe Pat Riley in his older age was not the GM that he thought he was. In response, Jimmy Butler showed up to Media Day as Emo Jimmy. Jimmy Butler had a history of trolling on Media Day because he knew whatever pictures they took that day would be used for the rest of the season. For less seasoned fans, this just seemed like Jimmy doing another typical prank, but others read between the lines. Dressing as emo after the failed trade deadline was a way of demonstrating his disappointment in the moves that were made. Afterwards, another season came and went, and still no significant star power or additions to the team. On top of that, Jimmy Butler got injured and was out for the playoffs, leading to the rival team of the Celtics to beat them in only 5 games. This is where things really got heated. Jimmy, being known as the Celtics stopper, commented on how things would have gone differently had he played, which is objectively true. Rather than propping up one of his players and saying something like, "It's unfortunate that Jimmy was injured as we could have used his help," Pat Riley instead, I guess having a grudge over the whole trade drama thing, said, "If you're not on the court playing, you should keep your mouth shut." Now, why did you have to go and do that? The small embers were already there from the trade failures, but this was the true spark and explosion to start the fire, with many articles citing this as the beginning of the recent drama going on. Why would you antagonize the guy that's known for going nuclear in terms of arguments? Jimmy Butler threw a bit of shade back with this video at a coffee shop.
He looks like he knows what he's doing.
He is. This is our best guy right here. See that? See that? I gave you a compliment. That's what bosses do. We build you up. We don't break you down.
Jimmy Butler then did what you would expect next and denied his extension like his previous teams. Enough was enough. He came to Miami to win, and they still had yet to provide that, and now they disrespected him on top of that. Later, a cascade of events happened with Jimmy intentionally playing poorly. Given his history, this was his way of making a statement again. If Miami doesn't want to win, okay, that's fine with him. He doesn't want to play to win either then. Pat Riley makes him feel unimportant to the team. Okay, he'll make his contributions minimal to see how they do without him. However, amidst the media coverage of this, Pat Riley denied that they would trade Jimmy Butler. Butler decided maybe his statement wasn't clear enough and then publicly stated he wanted a trade. Jimmy continued to play poorly intentionally, and the Heat retaliated and suspended him for 7 games, bringing us to where we are now. Or at least where we are at the time that I type this out and record this in January. I've scheduled this video to drop on the trade deadline, so when you watch this video, we now know how things boiled down. But now, speaking in January, the biggest problem is Jimmy Butler may never get what he wants. He wants to go to a winning team that wants to compete. But now, Jimmy Butler is 35, coming off of 3 team controversies and now adding a 4th. It's hard to say what his trade value will be and what he can add to a team. He hasn't played over 65 games a season since the year he went ballistic in Minnesota. Bernard Lee, Jimmy Butler's agent, stated that reports about trade rumors were fabricated, which was interesting to say the least. But here's how things boil down. As we've seen in this video, Jimmy Butler has a history. Many have pointed this out as evidence that Jimmy is the problem, giving voice to the locker room cancer argument around him. Except, in every case, as we've just discussed, he's been somewhat justified. As this YouTube comment says on the video where Max Kellerman first called him the locker room cancer, how can you look at his accomplishments and call him the problem? He simply wasn't paid enough or respected enough in every organization he went to, and people didn't share his desire to win. So how is that different from someone like Kobe representing Mamba mentality in his teams and pushing his teammates, or LeBron wanting Cleveland to make a similar roster around him? Sure, Jimmy isn't as elite as them, but he definitely added to his teams and had a similar mindset. Now, Jimmy is left in a similar position as his other teams, and people want to make him out as a villain once again, for simply wanting more and wanting what the game should be about: winning. Again, this should release on the trade deadline, so at this point we know what the result is. But until he plays, we'll see how he plays for another team or how this Heat drama saga continues. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be trying to upload every Thursday, switching between the podcast episode and more long-form documentary-style videos such as this. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you all in the next one. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share the video around, all that good cliche YouTuber stuff. We're trying to hit 25K subs for 2025, 25 for 25. And with that being said, hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.